This is a preview of Heaven's Gate Gets Deep Fat Fried. The full episode is available for patrons only. Are you tired of life here on this miserable rock? Just grab the tail of a passing comet and ascend to a form that is beyond human. Tonight, the Heaven's Gate cult gets deep fat fried.
Feta fried!
Yeah, boy. So I'm not sure. I hope we're streaming out there to people. I'm not really sure how this Vimeo shit works yet.
Oh, we're streaming. We're streaming to the whole world.
This is like Paul Applewhite, dude.
All right, so I might as well just get the audience in on our little discussion here that we've been having in the pre-show interim.
Yeah.
All right, so audience, go ahead and full screen this if you can. I know some of you might be watching on phones and things of that nature, so...
yeah, your results may vary depending on the size of your display, but if you've got a reasonably sized display, it should work.
I'll even go ahead and make this a little bit larger for you.
Oh, cool.
So there you go. I just want you guys to do a little experiment here. And I'd like you to report back what happens. I want you to just stare directly into the eyes of this man, Marshall Applewhite, the founder of the Heaven's Gate cult. I want you to just stare into his eyes. Try not to blink. Try not to look anywhere else. Try not to study the rest of his face. Just focus all of your attention on his eyes. What starts to happen to you? Because I can tell you what happens for me and Paul. Some weird fucking shit.
Yeah, I was just kind of... TJ was setting up the show, and he had this picture up for the opener. And I just kind of like naturally gravitated towards those eyes because they're just blown wide open in a way you don't see most... And he's like this all the time. This is not just an opportune screen grab of Marshall Applewhite. This is the way he always looked. And I was looking right in his eyes, and it feels like I'm on a mild hallucinogen almost. If I stare long enough, his face starts to shift and change. The eyes start to look like they're closing a little bit and opening a little bit wider. The irises seem like they're darting around sometimes. It's a fucking strange picture.
This is a man, Paul, who is ready to take it to the next level. His ship is there, Paul. The vessel which will take him to another fucking plane of existence, Paul.
Well, his face is a vessel to a mild hallucinogenic feeling for me.
You know what? I'm not surprised, Paul, because it was really to blow your fucking mind. And if you had been fucking cognizant of this shit at the time, Paul, you probably wouldn't be here. You'd be on the ship with him.
Maybe so.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck walking into the woods, Paul. Walk into the fucking cosmos.
We definitely need a chat for this shit, man. I guess that...
you can enable chat.
I guess Vimeo has a chat. I don't see anything on it.
Is it enabled?
I mean,
people might just not have Vimeo accounts.
Might not have a Vimeo account. I just wish I had some way to know what people were receiving and make sure that it's okay. So,
well, I was texting Taylor, and she said they were good.
She said she's watching, huh?
She's watching like a hawk.
Tell her she's not allowed to watch this show.
She's got her eyes blown wide open like Marshall Applewhite.
Tell her she doesn't need to be spying on what you do, Scotty.
Yeah, tell her to give you a little space, man.
All right, I guess you guys are probably done staring into the eyes of this madman.
I wasn't, but I mean, I'll sit here and trip balls all day. It's cool.
I just realized that we'd had a still image on the screen for quite some time. I'm like, well, it is. I mean, is it a still image though? Because if you guys were experiencing the same sort of stuff we were, now Scotty, I don't think experienced any of it. To him, he just saw the eyes of an empty, hollowed-out man who doesn't really know what the fuck is going on in the world.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But me and Paul saw some trippy hallucinogenic shit, and we're not on hallucinogens currently. But
Zero.
We have been on several occasions. So,
yes.
Who can really say, hey, I'm wearing a fucking Nike shirt, dude. How appropriate is that?
Dude.
That's very appropriate.
Also, it's black. Perfect, dude.
I mean, I look like I'm ready to fucking join the cult. Someone give me a purple sheet. All right, I should probably explain what I'm talking about.
I look like I'm ready to have a heart attack.
The don't we both?
Our fucking
Anyway,
our cult week continues.
yeah, this is a continuation of a little cult week thing, and I'm going to focus this episode at least a lot on the life of Marshall Applewhite rather than just the Heaven's Gate cult.
That makes sense to me. That's kind of how we did it with Jim Jones.
And I think that the same thing is appropriate here. I want you guys to take a look at this image. This is This is someone who this is one of the cult's members. You notice they're wearing Nike shoes.
Good choice.
They all wore Nike shoes.
and like black.
They all
track
wore
pants.
black track suits. They all had the same haircut.
We have to be comfortable when you go to heaven.
Many of the men were castrated. It was 39 people. Each one committed suicide by taking a combination of applesauce and pudding poisoned with vodka mixed with phenobarbital.
Ooh, sounds
It's
fun.
a pretty peaceful way to go out, though.
Yeah, I mean they didn't want to suffer. They were just looking. This is for them. This is a transition.
and they were considerate too. They wore their purple sheet, so it's like when they were going to be found, you wouldn't have to look at that bloated corpse face.
There was a definite effort put into presentation here.
They did. You have to give them a credit for their presentation of a cult.
You talked about too. I mean, like this guy didn't get as many victims as Jim Jones, but he definitely brought his own unique aesthetic to the mass suicide thing.
He did.
This is the guy. I wanted to show you guys though. Oh, let me see if I can find that. Where the fuck did it go? This thing here. This is what I wanted. This is a patch that many of the members were wearing. And look how happy it is. Look how joyous.
It's the away team.
Yeah, looks like something that would be, on the uniform of an astronaut or something. Has a very exploratory vibe to it.
Yeah, you see there the comet or the UFO following the comet, and it's ascending into the heavens.
I'm just thinking about Captain Picard being like, Mr. Applewhite, assemble your away team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a away team. There's a lot of connections. I think we were discussing just a moment ago
The Star Trek, yeah.
between Star Trek and the Heaven's Gate cult.
Well, it makes sense. At the time this happened, I mean, Star Trek was a big fucking I mean, they had Deep Space Nine, they had Voyager, and obviously they deal with space and exploration, which these people were very interested in, so it's a natural
They
fit.
also deal with being in a subservient position aboard a vessel exploring the stars, which was actually their idea of heaven.
Yeah.
It wasn't any sort of fulfillment of anything that we would think of as earthly pleasure in our lives. In fact, Marshall Applewhite taught to forsake all of that, to totally reject the human mindset, to make your brain into something that was worthy of being received into a new alien vessel where you could serve aboard a starship potentially for all time. That was the heaven he spoke of.
But, he wasn't, it's kind of interesting to remember, too, about him, is that this wasn't just like this guy was crazy his whole life. This guy had you would say a very normal life. He was in the military, he was in the army, he had a couple of kids.
He's a music teacher.
Wife.
He was a music
he had
teacher, so it wasn't like...
He taught music both at a high school and college level. He went to New York for a time to try to become
to break into the industry.
Yeah, he actually tried to become a musician. We were discussing earlier the parallels between that and like Charles Manson, how both of those guys were failed musicians that ultimately became cult leaders. He actually had an affair with a male student at one of his music teaching jobs, this was the 60s. So that was not...
No.
Yeah, that was... I mean, that's probably... I mean, like, we're talking an adult student. He wasn't, like, hitting on a high schooler or something. And but definite no-no in the 60s. Probably still a no-no now. But, he had this gay affair. His wife separated from him, divorced him 3 years later. His life got thrown into total chaos by that revelation. I think for a brief time in the late 60s, early 70s, he was openly going around calling himself gay. But obviously over the course of his life, he started identifying more as a non-sexual being or someone who was forsaking that part of himself.
So like a highly repressed homosexual.
Right, and I think that's central to the whole Heaven's Gate theology, that whole idea of shedding the mortal coil. I mean, a lot of that is sex.